The 911 call came in at 3:47 a.m. on September 12, 2019. Officer Brad Martinez was found in his driveway, shot execution style. His wife Sarah lay bleeding on their front steps, clinging to life. Their 8-year-old daughter Emma was missing from her bedroom. But here's what investigators didn't know yet. The killer was still there, watching from across the street. And this wasn't random violence. This was justice, or revenge, depending on who you ask. What you're about to hear is the story of Michael Santos, a father whose 7-year-old son was killed by a police officer during a routine traffic stop. When the system failed him, when justice was denied, Michael took matters into his own hands. This is the story of what happens when a father's love becomes a father's vengeance. Before we dive deep into this case that divided a nation, I want to thank the viewers who make this channel possible. If you're new here and love detailed true crime investigations that go beyond the headlines, please subscribe. It truly helps us bring you more stories like this one. Now let's begin with a day that changed everything. March 15, 2019. It was 2:30 p.m. on a Thursday. Michael Santos, 34, was driving his 7-year-old son Danny home from school in East Los Angeles. Michael worked as a mechanic at a local garage. Clean record, no criminal history. A single father raising his boy alone after Danny's mother died in childbirth. Officer Brad Martinez, badge number 18047, had been on the force for 15 years, decorated, respected, a family man with a wife and daughter of his own. The traffic stop was routine. Michael had a broken taillight. What happened next would destroy 2 families forever. According to the police report, Officer Martinez approached the vehicle and asked for license and registration. Michael complied, but then, according to Martinez's testimony, Michael became agitated, aggressive, reached for something in his glove compartment. Martinez drew his weapon. He shouted commands. Michael didn't comply fast enough. 3 shots were fired. 2 hit Michael in the shoulder and chest, non-fatal wounds. The 3rd shot went through the passenger window and killed 7-year-old Danny Santos instantly. The official police report was filed within 6 hours. It stated that Michael Santos, during a routine traffic stop, became combative and reached for what appeared to be a weapon. Officer Martinez, fearing for his life, discharged his firearm in self-defense. The death of Daniel Santos was classified as a tragic accident, collateral damage, and a justified police shooting. But there were witnesses. Mrs. Rosa Hernandez was walking her dog on the sidewalk. She saw everything. According to her initial statement to police, Michael Santos never raised his voice, never made aggressive movements. He was reaching for his registration when Martinez opened fire. Within 24 hours, Mrs. Hernandez changed her story. She now claimed she hadn't seen the incident clearly. Poor eyesight, she said, couldn't be sure what happened. There was also Carlos Mendez, a teenager who filmed part of the incident on his phone. He was detained for questioning. His phone was confiscated as evidence. That footage was never seen again. Carlos was charged with obstruction of justice and spent 6 months in juvenile detention. The body camera footage from Officer Martinez's uniform would have shown everything. But there was a malfunction, according to the department. The camera stopped recording 2 minutes before the shooting began. Michael Santos survived his wounds, but part of him died in that car with his son. He spent 3 weeks in the hospital, 2 of those weeks in intensive care. When he was finally released, he attended Danny's funeral in a wheelchair. The next 18 months of Michael's life became a crusade for justice. He hired attorney Linda Rodriguez, a civil rights lawyer known for taking on police brutality cases. They filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the city and Officer Martinez personally. The case was thrown out on qualified immunity grounds. Michael organized protests. He spoke at city council meetings. He reached out to civil rights organizations, local media, anyone who would listen. The story gained some traction, a few local news segments, some social media attention, but nothing that created real pressure for change. Officer Martinez was placed on paid administrative leave during the internal investigation. After 4 months, he was cleared of all wrongdoing and returned to active duty. The department held a press conference praising his 15 years of dedicated service and expressing sympathy for the tragic accident. Michael was in the audience that day. As the police chief spoke about Martinez's exemplary record, Michael stood up and screamed, "He murdered my son. He murdered Danny." Security removed him from the building. By October 2020, 18 months after Danny's death, Michael Santos was a broken man. He'd lost his job at the garage, too much time off for court dates and protests. He was behind on rent, drinking heavily. His sister Carmen was his only support system, and she was worried about his mental state. The final blow came on October 15, 2020. Michael saw Officer Martinez at a local supermarket with his wife and daughter. Martinez was in civilian clothes, laughing with his family, buying groceries like nothing had happened, like Danny Santos had never existed. That night, Michael called his sister. "Carmen," he said, "I want you to know that I love you, and I want you to know that this isn't your fault. None of this is your fault." She asked him what he meant, but Michael had already hung up. That was the last normal conversation anyone would have with Michael Santos. Because that night, something fundamental changed in him. The grieving father died, and something else was born. Something dangerous. For the next 8 months, Michael Santos disappeared from public view. No more protests, no more court appearances, no more desperate phone calls to journalists. His sister Carmen thought he was finally healing, finally accepting what couldn't be changed. She was wrong. During those 8 months, Michael was planning with the precision of an engineer and the patience of a hunter. He studied Officer Martinez like a PhD dissertation. He learned Martinez's schedule, shift rotations, favorite coffee shop, route to work, where he bought groceries, where his daughter went to school, where his wife got her hair done. Michael rented a studio apartment under a false name 3 blocks from Martinez's house. He installed surveillance equipment, telephoto lenses. He documented every movement, every routine, every vulnerability. He wasn't planning to just kill Martinez. That would be too easy, too quick. Michael wanted Martinez to feel what he felt. The helplessness, the fear, the knowledge that someone you love is in danger and there's nothing you can do to protect them. The campaign began in June 2021. Officer Martinez started receiving anonymous letters at his home address. The first letter contained a single photograph, Danny Santos' school picture with a message written in red ink. "You remember him, don't you?" A week later, another letter. This time it contained copies of the autopsy photos from Danny's case. Photos that should have been sealed evidence. The message read, "This is what you did to a 7-year-old child." Martinez reported the letters to his department. They were dismissed as harassment from activists still angry about the shooting. Standard procedure was to ignore them unless they contained direct threats. But the letters kept coming, and they got more personal. The fourth letter contained photographs of Martinez's own daughter Emma at her school, playing on the playground, getting on the school bus. The message read, "Pretty little girl, same age as Danny when you killed him." Now Martinez was scared. He installed a security system at his house, started varying his route to work, asked for patrol car drive-bys of his neighborhood. The phone calls started a month later. Always at 3 a.m., always the same, no voice, just breathing, sometimes crying, sometimes children's laughter playing in the background. Martinez's wife Sarah was struggling. She couldn't sleep, started having panic attacks. Their daughter Emma was having nightmares, saying she felt like someone was watching her at school. By August 2021, the harassment had escalated beyond psychological warfare. Someone had been in their house while they were away. Nothing was stolen, but items had been moved. Danny Santos' school picture was left on Emma's pillow. Sarah Martinez begged her husband to move, to transfer to another department, to do something. But Brad Martinez had 15 years on the force. He wasn't going to be driven out by some grieving father. That was his first mistake. He still thought he was dealing with grief. He didn't understand that Michael Santos was no longer grieving. He was hunting. Detective Lisa Chen was the first investigator to take the threat seriously. She'd been watching the escalation and recognized a pattern. This wasn't random harassment. This was someone with resources, planning, and intimate knowledge of police procedures. Chen started pulling surveillance footage from around the Martinez house. Traffic cameras, security cameras from local businesses. What she found chilled her. The same car, a black Honda Civic with tinted windows, appeared in 11 different locations over 3 months. Always within a block of somewhere Martinez had been. Always driven by the same figure. A man wearing a baseball cap pulled low. Chen ran the partial license plate through the system. The car was registered to Michael Santos. But when police went to arrest Michael at his last known address, they found it empty. He'd moved out months ago, leaving no forwarding address. Michael Santos had become a ghost. And ghosts, Detective Chen realized, are the most dangerous kind of stalker, because you never see them coming until it's too late. On September 10, 2021, exactly 2 years and 6 months after Danny Santos was killed, Officer Martinez received a phone call at work. For the first time in months of harassment, the caller spoke. "Officer Martinez," the voice said. It was calm, controlled, almost polite. "This is Michael Santos. You killed my son." Martinez immediately signaled for the call to be traced. But Michael was ready for that. "I want you to know," Michael continued, "that everything that happens next is your choice. You have 48 hours to do the right thing. Confess publicly what really happened that day. Admit you murdered an innocent child. Face justice." "And if I don't?" Martinez asked. "Then I'll show you what it feels like to lose everything you love." The line went dead. Within hours, the Martinez house was under police protection. Plainclothes officers were positioned around the clock. Sarah and Emma were moved to a safe house. Martinez continued working, but under heavy security. For 48 hours, nothing happened. No letters, no phone calls, no sightings of the black Honda Civic. Martinez began to think Michael Santos was all talk, just another grieving parent making empty threats. He was wrong. At 11:30 p.m. on September 12th, Officer Martinez finished his shift and drove home under police escort. The protection detail checked the perimeter of his house. Everything was secure. At 11:45 p.m., Martinez dismissed the escort officers. Department policy didn't allow for round-the-clock protection beyond 48 hours unless there was an imminent threat. And since nothing had happened, the threat level was downgraded. At 12:15 a.m., Martinez checked all the locks, set the alarm system, and went to bed. His wife and daughter were still at the safe house. He was alone in the house, but he felt secure. At 3:47 a.m., someone cut the phone lines to the Martinez house. The security system went offline 30 seconds later. At 3:52 a.m., Martinez woke up to find Michael Santos standing at the foot of his bed, pointing a .38 caliber revolver at his chest. "Hello, Officer Martinez," Michael said. "We need to talk." What happened in that bedroom over the next hour can only be reconstructed from the recording found later on. Michael's phone, he had documented everything. "Please," Martinez said on the recording, "whatever you want, we can work this out." "What I want," Michael replied, "is my son back. Can you give me that?" "You know I can't." "Then we have a problem." For several minutes, the recording captures Martinez pleading for his life, promising to confess, to take responsibility, to resign from the force, anything to live. But Michael wasn't interested in promises anymore. "I want you to know exactly what happened that day," Michael said. "I want you to tell me the truth, not the version in your police report, the truth." And then, incredibly, Martinez confessed everything. He admitted that Danny Santos was never a threat, that Michael never reached for a weapon, that he fired because he was scared, because he'd made a mistake, and because he knew the department would cover for him. "I'm sorry," Martinez said. "I'm so sorry. It was an accident. I never meant to hurt your son." "But you did hurt him," Michael replied. "You killed him, and then you lied about it, and then you went back to your life like nothing happened. What do you want me to do?" "I want you to understand what it feels like to lose everything." That's when the recording captures the sound of Martinez's phone ringing. Michael had called 911 from Martinez's own phone. "911, what's your emergency?" "This is Michael Santos. I'm at 1247 Oak Street. I've just killed Officer Brad Martinez." But Martinez wasn't dead. Not yet. Police arrived at the Martinez house at 4:15 a.m. to find a scene that would haunt investigators for years. Officer Brad Martinez was found in his driveway, shot once in the chest. He was alive, barely, but would die from his injuries 2 hours later at the hospital. Inside the house, they found Sarah Martinez in the kitchen, shot twice in the abdomen. She had been moved from the safe house sometime during the night, brought back by someone claiming there was an emergency with her husband. But it was the scene in 8-year-old Emma Martinez's bedroom that broke even veteran detectives. Emma was found sitting on her bed, unharmed but catatonic. Beside her was a note written in a child's handwriting. "I'm sorry your daddy killed my daddy's little boy." Michael Santos had made Emma write her own father's confession. Michael himself was found in the living room, sitting calmly in Martinez's favorite chair. He made no attempt to resist arrest. The gun was on the coffee table beside him, along with a manila folder containing every piece of evidence he'd gathered over 2 years of investigation. What police found in Michael's evidence folder would rock the department to its core. Hidden body camera footage showing the real events of Danny's shooting, bank records proving that witness Rosa Hernandez received a $50,000 payment the day after she changed her testimony, phone records showing coordination between Martinez and other officers to cover up the incident. But the most damaging evidence was a recording of Martinez's full confession from that final night. 2 hours of detailed admission about not just Danny's murder, but a pattern of excessive force that the department had covered up for years. The investigation revealed that Martinez had been involved in 4 other questionable shootings during his career. All had been ruled justified. All had evidence that mysteriously disappeared or witnesses who changed their stories. Detective Lisa Chen, who had tried to warn about Michael's escalation, resigned from the force in disgust. "We created Michael Santos," she told reporters. "Our corruption, our cover-ups, our refusal to hold officers accountable. We turned a grieving father into a killer." Michael Santos was charged with first-degree murder, attempted murder, and kidnapping. His trial lasted 6 months and divided the community. Prosecutors argued he was a cold-blooded killer who had planned a family's destruction. The defense claimed he was a father driven to desperation by a corrupt system. The jury deliberated for 11 days. They convicted Michael of voluntary manslaughter and aggravated assault, but acquitted him of first-degree murder. The judge sentenced him to 25 years in prison. Officer Brad Martinez was posthumously stripped of his badge and pension. Sarah Martinez survived her injuries but required multiple surgeries. Emma Martinez was placed in protective custody with relatives. The question that haunts everyone involved remains unanswered. Was Michael Santos a murderer seeking revenge, or a father seeking justice the only way he knew how? 3 years later, Michael Santos sits in state prison, serving his sentence. He has never expressed remorse for his actions. In his only interview, he said, "I did what any father would do when the system fails his child." Sarah Martinez has moved across the country with her daughter, Emma. Now 11, is in therapy but struggles with nightmares and trust issues. She has never spoken publicly about that night. The case led to reforms in the Los Angeles Police Department, body cameras that cannot be disabled, independent investigation of all officer-involved shootings, and mandatory counseling for families affected by police violence. But for many, these changes came too late. Too late for Danny Santos. Too late for Officer Martinez. Too late for a family torn apart by violence, and a father consumed by the need for justice. The case of Michael Santos forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about justice, vengeance, and what happens when the system designed to protect us fails. When legal channels are exhausted and corruption runs deep, how far is too far in the pursuit of justice? Michael Santos believed he knew the answer. The rest of us are still trying to figure it out. Thank you for watching this investigation. If this story raised questions about justice and accountability that you'd like to discuss, please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe for more deep dives into cases that challenge our understanding of right and wrong. And remember, sometimes the most important stories are the ones that don't have easy answers. Until next time.